These are your people, Glenn. And I was saying in Spanish, we all made a huge effort, or we all always do a huge effort to be together every quarter. Every 3 months we get together. We got people from 16 different countries. However, this could not be possible without your initiative, without that idea. All right? Yes, we all made an effort, but without that initial step from you, thinking about this model that has benefited so many of us, all right, we wouldn't be here. So I want to thank you personally, and on behalf of everyone, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So, so I want to start for the people that don't know your background. They know who you are, but they don't know your background. How Glenn Sanford got started. What's your background professionally, and how you got started in real estate?
So I'm 56. However, I got my first computer when I was 12 years old. Mm-hmm. So that was 1977, 78. So I had a little bit of geekiness to me.
Okay.
But I did the standard entrepreneur stuff. I did the paper route. Mm-hmm.
So you deliver paper.
I delivered papers and had to collect subscriptions, and that was about 13, 14 years old.
Since you were 13 and 14, I got to talk to my son. Okay, okay, very good.
Now they're just creators online.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let's see. By the time I was 15, I started a software company. So I actually was writing software for companies, and then I got into sales. Mm-hmm. So I sold Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door when I was 17, 18 years old. I was going to college, and then I was selling Kirby vacuum cleaners.
At the same time, so you were selling door knocking, vacuum cleaners, and then going to school too.
A little bit.
Okay.
I was primarily in university, but then after for about a year and a half, I ended up dropping out, mm-hmm. And then sold Kirby vacuum cleaners. Then I went back to school, and then anyway, that. Okay. But I did a lot of sales, Yellow Page sales. I really wanted to master sales.
Aha, master selling. Okay. Why? Why is that so important?
One, I never wanted to be unemployed.
Aha.
And so if you become a good salesperson, there's always somebody that needs your help selling their product or service. And even if you weren't getting a salary, you could always be working on commission. So I always wanted to be employable, even if I couldn't have a job. I wanted to master the art of sales. So I did that in the early years, up until I was around 26, 27. And then I got back into more technology-related mm-hmm. ventures. I worked for AOL, mm-hmm. America Online at one point. I was managing their financial bulletin boards and chat rooms. I ended up starting an online service called Interactive Cafe. And then in 1999, I founded a company called eShippers.com, which was an e-commerce logistics company. To basically do pick and pack fulfillment for companies that sold online. And we.
What age were you at the time?
I was 30, maybe about, let's see, that would have been 99, about 31.
31, so you're not still in real estate by 31.
Yeah, I'm not in real estate. I got my license when I was 35.
35, okay. Okay.
Yes. So in this year, April 29th would be 21 years in the business.
21 years in the business. I have the same time. 21 years in the business. Just a little bit different outcome. All right, but okay. Okay, 21 years in the business. Okay, so you get your license at age 35. So how do you get started in real estate? What do you do first? Where do you go?
Yeah, so I got it differently than most people get their real estate license. I was doing websites for businesses.
Okay.
And I also was hosting a community-based website. It used to be the Chamber of Commerce website, and then I They went with a different direction. So I had a site with a lot of traffic. So I was selling ads to different businesses.
Okay.
And so the ad I was trying to sell was $25 a month. So we're not getting rich here.
Right.
But one of the people I tried to sell an ad to was the local top real estate agent, a realtor in the area. And so when I met him, eventually he asked me if I'd work on his website, which I did. And I charged him $60 an hour to work on his website. And eventually he got tired of paying me $60 an hour to work on my website, and he said, Glenn, you need to get your real estate license. And I had a preconceived idea of what it meant to be a real estate agent at that point in time. One of them was that agents didn't make any money in their first couple of years in the business. And that's what I said. Hugh, nobody makes any money in the first couple of years. I said, you need to guarantee me like $3,000 a month. And he said, fine. And I'm like,
okay.
Yeah, well, actually, no, I didn't really want to be a real estate agent. I was like, crap.
Okay. Okay.
And then I said, okay, I'm not going to wear a realtor pin at the grocery store.
Okay.
I'm not going to talk to my friends and family. I'm just going to work with clients that I meet online, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And he said, fine, fine, fine. And I was going, crap, crap, crap.
Okay, I just don't want to get into this.
I still did. And so a month later, he said, Glenn, why don't you have your license yet? And I said, well, Hugh, I get paid $60 an hour to do website development work, so I've been doing that versus studying for the exam. He said, I'll pay you $60 an hour to study for your exam.
I hope he has some stock in an EXP.
I ended up on his team for 2 years.
Okay.
I did all the lead generation. I worked with all the clients I met online. I ended up rookie of the year the first year. My first full year, I was the #1 buyer's agent, #3 in the office on his team. But it was not a traditional team, but I was giving him a 30% split of everything that I did. And his guarantee of $3,000 a month, which he guaranteed me, he only had to cover that for the first month, maybe 2 months. And then after that, he was getting 30% of everything I did for the rest of 2 years.
So he owned you. Yeah.
So he got a good deal.
Yeah.
And he recognized something in me that I wasn't quite excited about, but I figured if I'm going into this business with all these business constraints, and he's betting on me that I really need to dedicate myself to being as good as possible. Because sometimes we take other people's investments in us more seriously than we take in our own investments in ourselves.
Ooh, say that again.
Yeah. Sometimes we take the investments that other people make in us, more personally than the investments that we make in ourselves.
Yeah, sometimes we invest $10,000 in ourselves and we don't use it, and some people pay us $10,000 to sell their home, and the investment of time and commitment for those people is huge. I love that phrase. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've just found that over the years, like I've taken on investors in different businesses, and if they invest in my business, I work my ass off on it. A lot of times I'll have an idea which is just as good, but I'll have other priorities, and I won't work on this idea because, if I don't work on it, nobody's going to mind except me. But if an investor invests, I'm going to take that a lot more seriously.
Yep. Very good. All right. So now you become a top producer, and you have a small team.
Yeah. So in 2002, I got my license. 2004, I started a team, and by 2006, I was running 6 real estate teams at the same time, and I was in the top 50 nationally with Keller, and so that was my 4th full year in the business.
Okay.
So it was so I was a top producer.
So you're doing well, but now what happens? Why the idea of EXP? But before you go into that, the idea of EXP, it's now imagine a real estate agent thinking about, again, okay, so tell me the idea of EXP, opening a brokerage firm when you're a team leader and you're doing fine. Why go into all that hassle?
So one of the challenges that I recognize as an agent and as running a team is that if anything ever happened to me, then my family wouldn't potentially be able to put food on the table, and and things would get really bad really fast financially. And so I said, if that's not a business that I own, that's a business that owns me. And so I said, how do I get off this merry-go-round or hamster wheel? And I said, okay, I need to turn this into a true business that scales. And I need to solve this for me, but if I can solve it for other people, then I truly have a business that will do what I want to have happen for my family. If something happens to me, the business will continue to run, it will continue to produce revenues and results, so that they wouldn't go through a significant downturn. So for me, young family at the time, and so that was what was on my mind. And I've always found that if I have a challenge that I'm trying to solve, I figure there's a whole bunch of other people that have the exact same challenge. And so that was really the idea of why we started EXP.
Yeah. So I had the opportunity to interview you before, and you mentioned in that interview the importance of having a model that allows you to have that financial freedom, right? However, the real estate industry, it's an industry that innovates at a very slow pace, especially back then, maybe 12, 15 years ago. I want this community to understand that the pains and the challenges you went through when you started talking about stock, rev share, right? Growing massively, different states, possibly different countries. People must look at you like you're crazy, right?
They did. There's over 600 different MLSs in the United States. And it's a pain to join one of them as a brokerage.
Right. Is it a pain to join one MLS? It is, yes.
If you start a brokerage and then you've got to go through all the hassles to actually be part of that MLS. And for me, I actually saw that as an opportunity.
Okay.
Because I figured if it's a really big pain and everybody's saying, why would you want to do this? You're going to have all these challenges. Then I knew they wouldn't be competing with me because they saw it as a challenge. And so for me, it was like, then if I do it, then nobody's going to compete with me for a while. And so it really kind of created a blue ocean that I could go after and actually grow something without really having the competition.
So pain, you see how successful people see pains, see challenges, is a great opportunity. The bigger the pain, the bigger the payoff, right? The bigger the problem, the bigger the check, right? Most people say, oh man, this is too painful, this is too much work. No, this is a huge opportunity that I have, right? How many people do you have to go through the country? I know that the behind the scenes story, because I hear it before, but I want them to understand that. How many planes you have to take, how many people you have to take, how many meetings you have to attend to explain the model?
So one of the things I heard a phrase years ago, it was actually from Don Hobbs, who you may know. But Don, I went to his mega managing course, and this was in 2008, before we started EXP. And the phrase that he shared was, the purpose of a business is to serve the needs of the owner. And
hold on 1 second right there. The purpose of a business is to serve the purpose of the owner. El negocio está para servirte a ti como dueño, no tú como dueño servir al negocio. Big time difference. The business is there to serve me, not for me to serve the business, if I build it right.
Right. So as a result, I started to build the business constraints to serve me. And one of them was I didn't want to get on a plane.
Okay.
And then I said, okay, if I don't want to get on a plane, what do I need to put in place in order to be able to be connected to lots of different people as we expand this on a nationwide basis? And that's where we came up with the idea of the virtual world. If we could bring people into the virtual world, I didn't have to get on a plane. And so I could have meetings with people in any of these different areas. And so that became really kind of the mantra. So in the early days, we did everything sort of online, webinar style, in world. If people didn't come in world, I wouldn't meet with them. People could try calling me on the phone, but if they called me on the phone,
Get in the world.
I literally said, if you're with EXP, you've got to meet me in world. So I created a number of forcing functions to serve what I needed to have happen so we could scale. Because jumping on a plane, multiple times a week or even multiple times a month, it's not very scalable and it's pretty expensive.
It is, yeah.
And so
it's not scalable. It's not so fast, right?
Right.
By the way, one of the things we tell our people, it's one of the main advices we give our people: don't go to an office. If you have a company that have an office, don't go to the office, because the morale in that office is not that high. And the top agents are not going to the office. They are meeting with clients in different houses.
They are. Yeah. The best place to get out of your game is to go to an office.
Say that one more time.
The best way to get out of your game is to go to an office, because people will water cooler talk you to death, and you won't actually get the work accomplished that you need to get done. So if you're a top producer, like if you're not geared to be a top producer, the water cooler has a lot of value.
Yeah.
But
you're right. If you don't want to be a top producer, the office has a lot of value because it has a water cooler, right? Si tú no quieres ser realmente un gran productor, sí, ir a la oficina tiene mucho valor porque te sientas alrededor de la cantina del agua, la botella, conversan muchísimo, pero no estamos aquí para conversar, estamos aquí para hacer negocio y construir realmente un negocio. Thank you, Glenn. All right. So, how many meetings do you have to take in the process?
So I was doing 2 or 3 EXP explains a day, and so I would work with my team, and then we would do an EXP explained. We'd walk people around the virtual campus, show them where they could get transaction support, they could get this support, that support, and then some people signed up, some people didn't,
right.
and that was kind of the daily routine. And that's what we did for a couple of years pretty consistently, and then by about so we started in 2009, and by the end of 2012 we were 300 agents or so very small.
So from 2009 to 2012 is only 300 agents.
Only 300
in
agents.
4 years.
Right.
Wow. Okay. So when the exponential growth starts happening?
So in 2012, I was going, how do we actually turn up the hockey stick? And at that point, we were the first ones to introduce revenue share. But for a lot of agents, revenue share didn't really look that much different than profit share. And so, if you were at Keller Williams as a brokerage, you'd said, hey, this is kind of what we've got. We're more mature. We got offices,
right.
So they may not move. And so I was looking for another way to differentiate, and so that's when we decided that we were going to become a public company. And so we went and bought a public company in 2013 and merged ourselves into it. So we spent about $500,000, bought a public company, merged ourselves into it, and then created our first equity awards for agents in 2014. I think Elizabeth Riley was here yesterday.
Yeah, oh yeah, she was.
So
how was Elizabeth yesterday? Huh? Right? Yeah.
So Elizabeth was our very first Icon agent in EXP. So she's earned the Icon Agent Award more than any other agent in EXP.
Wow.
And what we believed at the time, which is borne out to be true, is that the equity for agents was a game changer.
Yep.
The fact that agents are now owners of the company, shoulder to shoulder. In fact, 30% of our company is, well, actually more than that, probably close, 30+% of the company is actually owned by our agents and brokers who have been helping us as active agents in the field selling real estate. And so that's been a big part of the model is the equity ownership piece. So for us, when we put that in place, it started to attract different types of business-minded agents that we hadn't been attracting before. That's when, Elizabeth talked to Gene Frederick, and then Gene, he was the, a top recruiter with KW, had owned a number of market centers. He sold all those to come over and help us grow. And so that's when we really saw the growth really start to take off, was when we added the equity ownership piece.
Absolutely. So Gene says, I came back that day after meeting with Jason at the time, right? And explaining Jason that is president of also part of the EXP executive team. And he says, he goes to Susan. Susan is the wife, and says, Susan, if I own 6 Blockbusters franchises, what would you ask me to do? And Susan says, sell them, right? So, well, let me tell you, I just discovered the Netflix of real estate, right? And that is an amazing story. And I don't tell it the way Gene says it, which is amazing, storyteller. But that's what we have discovered, right? And Elizabeth was here yesterday saying, I met Glenn. Glenn talks to me about rev share. I don't understand it very well, so I don't pay attention. She doesn't pay attention, and now you know how financially free she is because of that, right? Now, it attracts me, the stock, right? The opportunity to be owner of a company that I work for, right? That I'm helping to build. And then she said, very kindly, she says, but the thing that I liked the most was Glenn. It was having that person. I like that person as a professional. So that the stock, the people, the community we talk about was the most important thing. So very, very, very important part. What's the biggest challenge, Glenn, you've had building the company? Big challenge you had.
Well, we had two. I'll mention 2 challenges. One I'll go over very briefly. It was 2008 to 2009, and it's pre-EXP. And the reason why EXP exists partially is because I couldn't afford offices. So it was because...
Wow, for real.
So
okay.
So remember 2008, we had the right. housing crash. You said you're in business 21 years, so you remember.
Yeah.
I had 4 physical offices, and I had to quickly close 3 of them, went to a skeleton crew in kind of a single Regis office. And that was October of 2008. And we had to figure out how to get to 2009. So we had to quickly raise some money, and then that created the need for coming up with a business model that wasn't dependent on physical offices. And that's where all the thought process around, if we don't have physical offices, what are all the things that agents are going to need in order to want to come over? Right. Because there still are going to be offices out there. And so that's where we came up with the rev share model, and that's where we did some of that. So that was actually minor in comparison. Where the biggest challenge was 2016 to 2018. We were growing so fast that agents weren't getting paid in a lot of cases for 2 and 3 weeks on a closed transaction. It was taking over a month for an agent to actually express interest in EXP before they could even onboard as a company, as an agent. Our systems were almost at the point of breaking, and if we didn't have the financial alignment with our agents, we would have lost most everybody. But because of that, we were very attractive. Agents wanted something to solve the biggest pain point in their business, which is there is no retirement in real estate agency.
You understand that? The biggest pain point, la preocupación más grande que tenemos, si estamos conscientes, es que no tenemos un plan de retiro. No tenemos un soporte económico que nos permita en algún momento de nuestras vidas y durante nuestra carrera decir, hey, yo quiero parar. Hey, en estos momentos es el momento para vender y voy a vender hasta que me muera. ¿Qué estoy construyendo realmente en este negocio que le dedico 8 o 10 horas y que se lo he dedicado por 15, por 20 años y por los próximos 15, 20 años más? Thank you, Glenn, for that. All right. So I want to hear a couple of stories, all right, talking now about that retirement. But the stories we heard are not about retirement, the most important ones, the ones that touch me the most. And I know you hear many of them. People with illness, very, very serious illness, that the rev share was able to, to keep him financially stable. 2 stories that move you to the process, because I know you know many. If you can share a couple of stories with the audience.
Yeah, there are so many that they do start to blend together, but there was one last year. I was at the Build event in Dallas.
Yeah, we were there. Uh-huh.
And a lady came up to me in the lobby, and she pulled me aside, and with tears in her eyes, she said she'd been at EXP, I think it was 6 years at that point. But she said that 3 years into EXP, it was first time since she had had a divorce a number of years prior that she didn't go to bed panicked, wondering how she was going to, keep things going as a single mom. Mm-hmm. And so that for her, like she literally was that. Just the fact that there was a rev share component and an equity component, that for her changed everything in her life. We've had numerous people who have been able to put their kids through college that they never expected to, just because they were timing on the equity, where they started to vest equity and where the stock has moved, and obviously it's down from where it was in say 2021. Eventually, I suspect it's going to be much higher, but because of that, they were able to put their kids through school, or they were able to make a down payment on the house. There's a lot of people, a lot of real estate agents never become homeowners, and because of the fact that EXP existed, they were able to actually create enough savings or rev share or consistent income. Consistent income is a big challenge when you go to get a mortgage.
Consistent income, there you go.
And they were able to then purchase a house. So those stories I hear all the time, and obviously people having the passive income. Brian Culhane, who was with me when we started the company, he has the honorary title of co-founder. He broke his hip in about 2012 and couldn't be weight bearing for 12 months.
Wow.
Or no, 6 months. And had it not been for revenue share in the company, he would have had to declare bankruptcy. And so that got him through. Still to borrow a little bit of money here and there because it wasn't a huge rev share. Now it's much bigger, but it was enough to make sure that he could actually make it through without declaring bankruptcy.
Do you understand the type of conversation we're having in this room for the past 3 days? Way more. Yes, the production is important. That's where everything starts, right? But it's way bigger. We're talking about truly setting people financially free. You said so many people financially free through the model, rev share, stocks, right? We had Elizabeth yesterday have the opportunity to pay off the mortgage for her parents, right? To make sure that she retires her husband. What stories?
Yeah, and the other thing is because of the way we collaborate, which is totally different, your production will go up as well. If you're focused on production, you're around so many people who actually have a vested interest in seeing you succeed.
Right.
That even if you're not focused on the rev share side of the business, if you're focused on being actively listing and selling real estate, you will list and sell more real estate because of the community.
Yep, absolutely. Now going to the community, I want to change the focus to something that is very dear and important for us. You sparked a revolution back at EXPCon last year, talking about health. and the importance for you. And we have at EXP an amazing health insurance program. Why is health? And every time I go to a convention, all right, you personally are the one putting together with your team the 5K, and you are running the 5K. And of course, I follow you on Instagram, and you're always giving stories after your run, and it's kind of a meditation for you, because after you finish a run, then you talk about what you were thinking while you were running. So why is it health so important for you?
I've always been fairly health oriented my whole life. But even so, real estate, it can beat you up. You can, a lot of health issues happen because of the stress, because we tend to not eat as well, and those types of things. And so, for me, my health went off the wagon especially between 2016 and 2019. In 2019, my weight got up to 225 pounds. So I'm about 183 now. So I'm down.
40, yeah.
So I'm down quite a bit from that. And I was having some heart issues. I went in for EKG a couple times. I couldn't find anything. And so I was on a health journey. And at the end of the day, if you don't have your health, you can't do this business. And if you don't have your health, even if you do good at this business, you can't enjoy the fruits of your labor. And then more importantly, for those of you who are parents, want to be parents, grandparents, you want to be here as long as possible to be an inspiration to your kids. And so for me, health is, it's almost like the hierarchy of needs. First there's survival, and then there's self-actualization eventually. But in there, health becomes a bigger and bigger part of your life when you've handled the financial side of your life. And we a lot of times will sacrifice our health. And I even believe that this is, if you're going to sacrifice your health to put food on the table and a roof over your head, that's actually a reasonable sacrifice. But once you can put enough away, then you better start working on your health.
Yes.
Like there's a number of people, probably in this room, that should be focused less on making money because they make more than enough, and they should be focusing on making sure that they can be an inspiration for others for many years to come, which means focusing on your health.
Wow. Yep. Absolutely. You. By the way, I hear you talk about the impact of the stress real estate agents go through and how it affects their habits, nutrition habits. It causes poor sleep, right? So when you are not, where you're deficient because you don't have the right nutrition, and when you have poor sleep, that would directly affect your production. You don't have the right, the right energy. You don't have the right focus, right? And you can communicate the same way. Right?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't going to talk too much about this, but since you brought it up, you see I wear the Aura ring, so some of you might notice that. So that tracks my sleep scores, and I'm now super religious. Once I understood what my sleep did, I basically quit drinking because of this ring. So for those of you who don't want to quit drinking, don't get the Aura ring. Okay. Because you'll start to try to gamify your health, and you'll figure out, oh man, if I have 2 drinks in the evening, it messes up my sleep scores. It messes up my readiness scores for the next day. Makes me less effective. And so in Success Magazine, we created successhealth.com. We've got an Aura product there. You can get a discount for the Aura ring. You can get on the Biome, which is the nutritional supplements where they actually do the saliva, the stool, the blood samples, and actually give you custom vitamins and supplements specifically for you. And I've been doing that for a while. My biological age has went from 56 to 48 on my last test.
Yeah. Wow.
So
how cool is that, right? To measure what your biological age is. That's pretty cool. All right.
yeah, and I think that, you know, it's one of those things that if you believe health is an important component and you're not taking it seriously, you know, go to successhealth.com and start to just plug in there. We've got some other places that we can provide content, but I think it's a really important part of what we're doing at EXP.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So before we go into the questions, I want to know, Glenn, your personal why. Of course, you don't have to work another day in your life, but I see you working so many hours a day. You're here today. Yesterday you were in Fort Lauderdale. You leave. How many hours away from Miami do you leave?
Well, yeah. So I might catch my flight at 5:40, and so that's 2:40 on the West Coast, and I land at 11:46 on the West Coast. So my flights. I have to change planes in Seattle.
Right.
But it'll be a long travel day.
It's a long and you travel every single week. Most of the
no,
week.
about once every couple 3 weeks. And I try to travel as little as as possible, but there are places that I like to go. We went to the UK EXP Christmas party. Like going, that's kind of cool.
That sounds cool, right?
And then we went to we were up at Veronica's in Orlando, but that was partially because we were going to Disney World with my daughters.
Okay.
So we try to combine a little bit of work and this and that. So.
But why? Why do you stay so active? Why a person that already reached a huge level of success? Why do you keep working? Why do you keep doing this?
One, I think if you're a founder and you create something, you just can't turn it over to anybody. And there are certain pieces of the model that I'm still believe that we're going to be bringing to this that's just going to make agents' lives better. And it's hard to do from a perspective of someone who doesn't have that vision to begin with. And so you look at a lot of founders. Founders don't quit. I mean, you know, whether you look at in the tech community, the Bill Gates, the Elon Musk. I mean, you just don't quit.
Right.
And it becomes part of your identity. And you just feel like, and a lot of times you're the best person to continue to do this. So for me, my identity's tied up in it. And two, I want to impact as many people's lives as possible. And but I also want to be able to do it in a way that serves me too. So, you know, making sure that I do get my runs in and get my health-oriented things in, make sure I do those things. But for me, this is my family.
Yeah, well, right. So, before we go to with the questions, we are going to open for only 3-4 questions the most. Define success with a couple of words or a phrase for you. What is success for Glenn Sanford?
So, well, monetarily, obviously, I've solved that piece. But I think success is always being able to have a positive impact on others. You know, if I can have a positive impact on others, then I'm successful that day. And I think that success...
That you measure in a daily basis. I love that. Measuring in a daily basis. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but at least it got my attention, right? It said, success in a daily basis, if I can impact somebody in a positive way one day, that is a successful day, right? Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and so I think that success then, by extension, is once you stack up enough of those days, then I think you can actually start to say, I'm a success. The more, you know, if you've impacted enough people in a positive way over a consistent period of time, then I think that really, you know, represents a significant ingredient in success. I think that success is a combination of finances, relationships, health. I mean, there's the whole package. We call it the success wheel at success. But you know, it's how does your wheel run? And if it doesn't have little bumps in it, then for you at this point time, you're successful. And then I think about success as being a continuum. No matter where you're at on the continuum, you can be more successful or less successful. It doesn't matter where you're at. And so success is really when you're focused on positively impacting the continuum. So working on the success, are you going in the direction of your worthwhile dreams and goals? And if you are, then you are successful.
Well, thank you very much for that. Now it's 2023. It's a different market, changing. I wouldn't want to say challenging. I want to say changing market, depending on where you are. What would be the advice, before we have some questions from the audience, what would be your advice for agents for 2023?
So, one, you're already doing one of the things that's super important. Get around positive people, because this will be a little bit of a game of attrition in 2023. It's almost like when we were going through the brain damage of opening up EXP in every different MLS. We didn't really have any competition. People didn't really see that as they saw it as too challenging. And there's a lot of people who are going to say this is a really challenging market, and they're going to leave the business. I think about this on two fronts. The macroeconomy, we're going to drop down to whatever 4.2 to 4.5 million real estate transactions in 2023, depending on which economist you listen to. And that's substantially below 2020, definitely 2021, and also 2022. So if there's going to be dramatically less transactions, then you can sort of look at the macro. But you, as an individual agent, are not the macro. Mm-hmm. You get to determine what happens in your marketplace, in your farm, on your street, in your neighborhoods, and so for you can buck the trends, you can buck the macro economy, and you can have your best year ever if you choose to. It'll be a lot of work, a lot of hustle, be a lot of strategizing with individuals, some in this room, some out there in the marketplace, but with the right focus and attention, you can have your best year this year, even though for a lot of people, it'll be their worst year in years.
There you go. There you go. That's preparation, right? The word, the first word of the event, the first day was, what was the word? Preparación, right? Preparation. That yesterday word, what was it? Excellence, right? So excellence. Thank you very much. So the more we prepare, the better we become, and reaching always to become better and better and better. That excellence, that pinnacle that we want to achieve in 2023. And I love that phrase. It's, you are not part of the macro. Tú no eres parte del macro. Sí, hay un macro que definitivamente van a haber menos transacciones en el 2023, pero eso es a nivel macro. En tu nivel micro, tú puedes escoger realmente que este sea, comprometerte a que este sea el mejor año de tu vida. Glenn, I would like to take at least, three questions, only 3 questions. Very busy person. So, Stephanie, you have the microphone. Tomás, go ahead, Tomás. You had a question, you had a specific question? 3 questions. Go ahead, Stephanie, go ahead.
Primero que todo, lo voy a decir en español.
And then we'll translate it.
Gracias por transferirnos ese regalo a nosotros. Y quería hacerte la pregunta, ¿qué te motivó a seguir y cuál fue ese momento y qué hiciste en los momentos más difíciles de tu negocio?
So what motivated you to keep going, right? And what did you do in the most difficult time in your business career through the process?
One way that I keep going, both my daughters are grown up now. They're 26 and 27, and when I was younger, I was having to play the game of, do I work on my business or I spend time with the family?
Okay.
And that's a tough trade-off. Right. And so I try to spend as much time with my kids as possible, and I've should on myself. So I'm using should on myself for a lot of years. But in last year, in 2022, I actually truly embraced that I am an entrepreneur and I enjoy being an entrepreneur. Some people like golf. I enjoy working on a business.
I love that. There you go.
Yeah.
No guilt right there.
Yeah, no guilt.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
and so I kind of released a lot of the guilt around, there's 56. You sit there and go, well, I should be retiring. I should on myself, right? But you look at Warren Buffett. What's the guy like in his late 90s and still going strong? So I'm like going, well, why am I doing that? Because there's some societal norm around retirement, and I'm like, but I don't really want to retire. I'm an entrepreneur.
It's that simple. It's that simple. I think, there's this myth that you have to retire, that you have to play golf, go to the beach. That's not what I enjoy the most. Yeah, from time to time, I like to play golf. From time to time, I'll go to the beach. But what I enjoy the most is being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, one phrase I heard was, you can go and rent the beach, or you can go, or you can be an entrepreneur and own the beach.
There you go. Okay. Puedes ir y rentar la playa, tener una habitación, una playa, o puedes ser el empresario y ser el dueño de la playa. Okay. Right. Big time difference. Mati.
Thank you for being here. We are very happy that you are here with us, giving us your time. So what is your advice to people that think that it's too late, that it's too late to start the business, it's too late to be a top producer, it's too late to build a team?
It doesn't take very long to build any of this stuff. Like to build a team, to like one of the things, if you're an older realtor, and which you're not, but if you're getting in the business as an older individual, you have so much life experience on your side where you can actually have meaningful conversations with anyone. So when you're if you're in your early 20s, you're clueless. You've got to rely on hustle.
Right. Right.
And just smiling a lot, right?
Right. Yeah.
But when you're older, you actually get to take wisdom, and you get to take all of that life experience. You get to help, and you get to use it as a tool to mentor. Anything can be turned into an advantage or a disadvantage, and it starts with what you believe it means.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. We'll finish with Oscar. Oscar, one more question, and.
Glenn, thank you so much for being here. Where do you see EXP, this beautiful family that we're all part of and that we believe deeply, in 5 years?
Thank you. That's a very good question. Yeah.
Well, the family's getting bigger. I've said this for a while, but the aspirational goals of the company, or I don't even say goals, but we believe will happen, whether it's 5 years or not. But we think about 5 years being the 500,000 agents, and it sounds good. I said that a year ago. 5 years, 500,000 agents. So we'll see when we actually hit the number. But so what we found is, and what I've found is that this model resonates worldwide. We're not solving just a challenge for an agent in the United States of America. The fundamental challenge of not having a retirement plan of any sort, a structure or a business model, exists around the world. And around the world, outside of the United States and Canada specifically, real estate agents are abused financially in all of the countries because they're not on 70-30 splits or 80-20 splits, or they don't have an option to go for 100% if that's where they want to go. They're at best, usually around the world, 50-50. So in the EXP model, and you go to the UK, they basically give you minimum wage, and they give you a little bonus. So you're getting about 20% of the commission in the UK as an agent if you work in the UK. So we're like literally changing the lives of agents around the world, giving them the better splits, but then also the other opportunities through rev share and equity to build a business. So I think there's just a lot of lives that are just going to be changed. There's going to be a lot of, we look 5 years from now, there's going to be couple 100,000 or more internationally, and there'll be a couple 100,000 or more domestically.
Yeah. Well, Glenn, to me, it's been an honor, a pleasure to have the opportunity to interview you again, to be with this part of the tech community right here. Thank you very much, Glenn. It's been a pleasure. I will see you in a bit. Okay? Go after you.